Price is now pulled back. We have our 50% line here. We're now in a discount here. This order block is the down move that caused that market structure break. Well, really what happened here is this is external range liquidity that got taken out. Price is now trading higher and we now have a trading range. What becomes the next draw on liquidity? It's that point of interest back within the trading range. So yeah, we want to look to long here, but if we're up here and maybe we get some sort of SFP here, our draw on liquidity until we get down to here is for shorts. So even though the high time frame might be bullish, you could theoretically look for low time frame shorts, knowing that price is trying to draw back and mitigate this order block and tag that internal range liquidity.
Okay, what you just saw is one of the crypto Trader Mayne, who have leveraged ICT trading in the crypto space. Mainly he trade crypto space in the market, and then it's a verified 8-figure trader that recently got invited into Chartfanatic, went down his A to Z of breaking down how he takes ICT to leverage into the crypto currency he trades. And today's I mainly want to showcase this in the future markets, which is what I trade, and I trade very similar to what he trade, leveraging order blocks. So mainly one of my main concept I trade on my entries and mapping out the daily bias is essentially order blocks and volume profile, and order blocks is usually how I get precise on my entry and where to enter and give me overall general directions. But this applies to any single market. In this case, he trade in Bitcoins and then had been verified over 8 figures. So let's dive right into it. But currently I'm looking at a higher time frame. So let's jump into the 4 hours. On the 4 hour chart, we can see we're overall in the downtrend patterns. Typically what we like to see, as he mentions, we like to take the recent swing points into the recent swing low points, the high points, low points. So external and internal liquidity, this essentially is how market move. Market always move from external to internal, right? And then to external again, right? It's not going to always be external. It's going to be always external, huge range, and then grab in between the dealing range, but in between. So typically in the intraday, you would mark it out in the lower time frame to see those intraday swings, but the higher time frame can give you an idea. So from here, the order blocks, you can see, as you mentioned, here is the order blocks in this recent swing high of overall in the 4 hour time frame. If you take from this high to this low, right? This go back to the OTE. So this is a premium. Essentially, I could draw it out. Give me a second. So, but this is essentially premium discounts. So in here, this is a premium zone. If you want to short, it will short in the premium zone. And then this is the OTE. So you can see this is essentially what you mentioned to, he would take entry below the 50%. So typically what I do is I will just leverage this into as a premium discount, but it's the same thing. I just like to use premium discounts for visuals. Anything in here, and this is roughly 60%. A little deeper retracement will be 70%, right? That will be the OTE zone. 50% you can start looking to trade if there's trade. Okay, you can see this is a nice continuations towards the downside. So we can continue to see this is respecting it. And this days mainly want to focus on is how the price react to this order block here. Since this is going into the external direction, do we expect the price to continue lower? We want to jump into the lower time frame. So let's review this for now. We can already know this is the lower, trending lower, but in the lower time frames, to jump into 15 minutes, what I like to do is from today's internal range, so taking yesterday and also pre-market, mainly pre-market, to see if there's any trend continuation. So you can see from here, this is respecting this order block, right? And this is respecting this order block. And then you can kind of see if I remove this go into the OTE in the premium zone, and then you can continue short. So this is nicely following the trend, the bearish trend going lower. So let's say this is the day where I trade around here, right? So I'll mark out this area. So this is the order block I'm mainly looking at. So zooming down to 1 minute over here, this is mainly all I want to focus on. This is around 8:30. So I don't trade before 8:30. I trade after 8:30, after usually the news. I don't like to trade on news. I like to let the news settle. So after 8:30, news settle. I want to see some sort of reaction into this order block. Okay. So you can see this is the order block in the lower time frame. So this is a higher time frame, but this aligned with the lower time frame as well. So this 1 minute, you can see this order block. This aligned nicely. we want to see some sort of retracements into the premium zone. So if you draw from the swing high to the swing low, well, this is significant swing high, swing low, and you can. So one key point to point out here is when you're looking for obvious swing high, swing low, you should be obvious. You should not be guessing. So for example, if you're taking the swing high, you don't take it from swing low over here. This is a range, right? There's no significant high, significant low. This is just an obviously swing high, and then this will be the low, but this never tap into the premium zone. So you don't take anything. This is a new low, you don't tap into anything, and you leave it as it is, okay? So now this is where you can start looking for entry, right? You can place your short at this high or 50%. You can even leave it at 50% for entry. But typically I like to look into my left side to see if there's any significant order block. So you can see there are another order block here that also align in here. You can take in here for OTE. If you take this premium to change it to OTE, you can see it line up perfectly within the golden zone, right? And then you aim for 2R. So here's already 2R, but this went all the way down. So you kind of can see this is moving from internal liquidity to external liquidity, right? Everything's fractal from the bigger time frame. We're already in the external liquidity, right? So this is going lower. So if you take a quick look again, right? This is external liquidity over here. So I'll highlight the circle. External liquidity, and these are internal liquidity, right? So I can kind of put this into a different color. So these are all internal liquidities being grabbed, and then you have these ones as well, right? So all these are internal liquidity that's waiting to be grabbed. So internal liquidity, once the sweep into external, you can expect all these external liquidity to get swept. Okay, that's where most probable targets that you can target. But if you looking down into the lower time frame, this is external, and then you have internal liquidity, and then this is external liquidity. So it all aligns. If you read it in fractal ways, which you should be, always go from higher time frame to see where is the overall trend, and then look for the aligned lower time frame with higher time frame for any PD arrays with different any concept. But this is the simple ways to look at it. How he traded also is how I trade. Mainly I just use premium and discounts in my case, so it's easy to see. Once you tap into premium, you take the short, vice versa. If you're bullish, you will long in the discount zone. Okay. Now let's jump into another example here. So currently we can see we're in the dealing range. So from this high and this low, right? This is a significant external liquidity of the dealing range. What we want to focus on is where is the pattern, where is the trend currently trending toward. So you can see this is the order block, is respecting it. And this is second order block, is from the previous day, is respecting it. So we want to see if the trend will continue going lower to grab all these internal liquidity. So external, we have all this internal, and this is still saying internal. We want to see if this is respecting this, it's not grabbing this internal liquidity, it's going to be high probable going to grab this liquidity, right? So if you let it play out in the high time frame, you see all these internal liquidity get swept, but never touch external and then reverse, right? And then it's respecting this order block, right? So you can see this internal liquidity is respecting. Once it's swept, it's still respecting it, then you can look for long, right? So let's back up a little bit into lower time frame, how we can take a trade on this day. So let's jump all the way back into here. Okay. So here, what we can do on this day, I took a long instead. So even low in the higher time frame is in the downtrending. What we can target is not an external liquidity. So you see all these, so within the lower time frame, this is external liquidity, right? So this is a dealing range high, dealing range low, right? So what we can target is the internal liquidity. What is the internal liquidity? Are these ones, right? These ones, these ones, right? If you want to go high, right? So on this day, what I saw was it is respecting this order block. So let me change the color. Okay, this is respecting this internal order block. When we zoom down to lower time frame, right? And also there's another order block that's respecting here. When I zoom down to lower time frame, what I can do is once I see this respected, I took a long here, right? Why did I take a long here? If I take this, the only range, so you can take this into here. So this high, if you take 1 minute, again, everything's fractal. This is external, this is external, right? We want to target these internal liquidity, right? So let me remove this. This is my entry around here, right? So once I see a order block that is formed here, aligning with this, with the lower bottom is respecting it, my entry is here, okay? And my stop down here, or it can be down here. So let's say I put it down here, and I target the external liquidity up here, right? You can let this play out. So this took a little bit of time, but you can see it's respecting it. And once market open, where does it go? Spikes up towards the internal liquidity, and then once that's completed, right, it go back down, right? Because overall time frame is bearish, but it doesn't mean if overall time frame is bearish, doesn't mean you cannot take counter trend trade. But one thing you need to be mindful of, if you're going against the higher time frame, aim for internal liquidity in the higher time frame, and then look for external liquidity with the lower time frame. So these are external liquidity in the lower time frame. Again, everything's fractal, but in the higher time frame, so we take a look at, let's say 4 hours, right? You can see these are internal liquidity. If you take on 1 hour, these are internal liquidity. These highs over here, these are internal liquidity that we target, right? If you take 50 minutes, these are all internal liquidity, right? You never tap into here, right? Never even tap this high, but these are the obvious high that we target. So we want to aim for low-hanging fruits for those. And then once this happens, right? So once this liquidity is taken and we're all out of our position, if we take this to this high, so these are the external liquidity that is formed now with a lower time frame. Now it's tapping into the higher time frame, and we can see it form a order block here, right? This is now, I'm going to remove this so it's easier to see. You can see order block, tap into 50%, right? Enter here, stop at this high, all the way to this protected high. We don't expect it to go all the way back up. If it go all the way back up, then it want to push higher for probably this liquidity, right? These liquidities already got grabbed, but this, all these ones, they still remain, right? So if we want to push higher, it's going to grab for lows. Since we're expecting rejecting here and forming order block, we can expect the price to go lower. So let's target QRR, or you can even target for this external liquidity or this internal liquidity, right? As we mentioned before, we can target these internal liquidity or external. Since it's aligning with the higher time frame, we can target the external liquidity. We'll let this play out. Okay, take a little bit of time. Still doesn't want to go. Okay, you can see here, the internal liquidity is already tapped from this. This is already tapped from here. This is already out. You can factor it and put it in break even, and then rest let it run to external. So you can see we're going towards external liquidity. Not quite yet. Here we go. This took a long time to reach there, but you can see why we aim for certain targets. You need to understand why the price does what it does, right? And why did these swing high essentially form an equilibrium, equal relative equal highs that never get tapped into, because it's respecting the higher time frame, right? So higher time frames being respected, we can expect a higher probability that will go into these internal liquidity and external liquidity. But the main focus here, we want to focus today, again, before we end today's example, what mainly we want to cover. Let me jump into the higher time frame. Use this as a box. Do all of this. What we want to target is price to move, market structure break, and then tap into here, and then target down for the external liquidity. That's the main concept we want to cover here, right? So here I will kind of draw. This will be your market structure shift or market structure break, and then this will be your OTE, still in range. You will want to enter at the discount zone for long, and you want to enter in the premium zone for short. And then we target least external liquidity. If you're following with the higher time frame, you can target external liquidity. But if you're counter trending, so you're trading against it, let's say you want to trade in this direction. So let's say, if I can change color, I want to trade in this direction, right? You can take a look into the lower time frame within this section over here, right? So if I highlight it over here, so if I highlight this as white box, so this white box in the lower time frame in fractal will look like this, right? Same thing will look like this. And internal, right? It will look like this. Market structure shift, same thing. And then you have internal liquidity. These are internal liquidity, or external liquidity in the lower time frame, but these are internal liquidity within lower time frame. Within here, the market will look like this, right? It's not a smooth line. It's never a smooth line. It will look like this, and this is what we aim for. Okay, you have multiple internal liquidity here from a higher time frame standpoint, but if you zoom in, you can view them as external, right? But for here, you would want to aim for obvious high and lows, wherever you target, trading long or short. Okay, so this is as simple as it gets. Again, you can trade this concept in any single market. I trade in gold and futures. I haven't done Bitcoin, but Trader Mayne has done it in Bitcoin for multiple 8 figures. He's a verified 8-figure trader, so this works in crypto market as well, and this also works in future market. So something to take away from this is you can apply it into your strategy, but one thing to highlight: any single strategy, you need to understand the higher time frame. The higher time frame must align with your lower time frame for beginner trader. If you want to counter trade the trend in the lower time frame against the higher time frame, then you need to understand where you're aiming. And typically those, I can simplify, you aim for the internal liquidity of the higher time frame, which will be the external liquidity for the lower time frame. But you need to know where that's going to go. Okay. All right, that's it for today's. Hopefully this is helpful. If you have any additional questions on concept that you want to see more, please leave it in the comments. And for all the support, just leave us like and subscribe. That's all I ask for. Much appreciated. Stay safe and happy trading.